Picture this. It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the water stain on your bedroom ceiling, mentally tallying up the noise your brakes made at the stoplight today. Your heart does a little somersault every time the phone rings because it might be a collector, or worse, another unexpected bill. You're tired. Not just sleep-deprived tired, but soul-tired of playing financial Tetris every month just to keep the lights on. But then it happens. After months of eating basic, cheap meals and saying no to every night out with friends, you hit it. 5 figures, $10,000, or whatever that equivalent is in your local currency that feels like real money. You feel like you can finally breathe. You feel like the weight is gone. But look, here's the cold, hard truth. For 99% of people, that first $10,000 is the most dangerous moment of their financial life. It's the exact moment they subconsciously decide to stay middle class, or worse, broke forever. My name is Ian, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of building long-term wealth. And look, if you're someone who is grinding every day, but feels like you're just running on a treadmill, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're talking about the $10,000 mistake that almost everyone makes. And I mean everyone. The guy at the warehouse, the nurse on the night shift, even the smart office workers, they all fall for it. Now look, the first mistake, and I see this literally every single day across the globe, is the arrival fallacy. You think $10,000 is a destination. You think you've arrived. But in the real world, $10,000 isn't a mountain peak. It's just the first step on a very long, very steep ladder. We see statistics everywhere showing that a huge portion of the global population is one missed paycheck away from disaster. So when you hit $10,000, your brain looks at the people around you, people who are struggling just to pay rent, and it says, hey, I'm doing great. I'm in the top tier. But comparing yourself to a failing average is how you stay average. You start to relax. You start to coast. You stop the very habits, the grit, the discipline, the know that got you to the 10 grand in the first place because you think the war is over. This is where it gets really interesting because the second mistake is what I call static inertia. You work so hard to get that 10,000 that you become terrified of it moving. You let it sit in a basic bank account, earning next to nothing. You're staring at that balance every morning like it's a religious relic. But while you're staring at it, inflation, real world, global, grocery store, gas pump inflation is eating it alive. If inflation is at 4% or 5% and you're protecting that cash by doing nothing, you are effectively paying the bank hundreds of dollars a year just to let you feel safe. You're losing money to avoid the risk of making money. As Warren Buffett famously said, cash is a bad investment over time. But people get stuck. They treat that $10,000 like a trophy on a shelf instead of a soldier in the field. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Money that isn't moving is money that is dying. This leads into the third mistake, the inconvenience pivot. I talk to people all the time. The other day I was talking to a guy, a plumber, saved up his first $10,000, and he told me he had a sudden medical bill for his kid. He was devastated. He felt like he was back at square one. But look, that's not a failure. That's just Tuesday. The mistake isn't paying the bill. The mistake is that he didn't have a plan to replace it immediately. He let the emergency kill his momentum. He stopped his automatic transfers because he was recovering from the bill. Look, you don't recover by stopping. You recover by pushing harder. Most people use a $10,000 balance as a permission slip to be a consumer again. You think, well, I have 10 grand. I can afford the premium brands. I can afford the extra subscription. I can afford to not check my balance for a week. It's death by 1,000 cuts. You're trading your investor identity for a comfortable identity. Now, you might be thinking, Ian, $10,000 is a lot of money to me. I worked 2 jobs for this. And I hear you. I really do. It is a lot of work. But $10,000 is actually the most dangerous amount of money you can have because it's enough to make you feel comfortable, but it's not enough to make you free. It's like being in a rowboat in the middle of the ocean. You've got a little bit of water and a tiny bit of food, so you stop rowing. You think you're safe because because you aren't drowning yet, but you aren't moving toward the shore. You're just drifting. And drifting always leads back to being broke. Let's look at the math, because the math is brutal and it doesn't care about your feelings. If you have $10,000 and you just leave it sitting there for 20 years, it's still just $10,000 and it buys half as much as it does today. But if you took that same $10,000 and put it into a broad market index fund, which has historically grown over time, that $10,000 has the potential to grow to over $60,000 or $70,000 without you adding another penny. The mistake is the opportunity cost of your own fear. You're choosing the safety of a static number over the power of a result. This is where it gets really interesting, the identity gap. People who hit $10,000 and stay there haven't actually changed who they are. They've just changed their balance. To get to $100,000, $500,000, or $1 million, you have to keep the broke mindset of discipline while having the rich mindset of placement. You have to keep buying the basic groceries. You have to keep using the old transport. You have to keep the automated transfers running like a machine. Charlie Munger once said, "The first $100,000 is you gotta do it." He didn't say the first $10,000. He knew that $10,000 is just the warm-up, but most people finish the warm-up and think the race is over. They get the new identity where they start buying things that look like assets but are actually liabilities. They buy the fancy tech or the luxury gym membership because they feel they've earned it. Look, you haven't earned anything until your money makes more money than you do at your 9 to 5. That's the real goal. Everything else is just noise. The $10,000 mistake is treating your foundation like a finished house. You can't live in a foundation. It's cold, it's wet, and it's unfinished. You need to keep building. You need to take that $10,000 and realize it's actually a liability if it's just sitting there making you feel smug. It's making you soft. It's taking away your edge. I want you to be frustrated with $10,000. I want you to look at that 5-figure balance and feel like you're still broke. Because in the grand scheme of a 40-year career, $10,000 is a rounding error. It's a drop in the bucket. But if you treat it like a mountain, you'll never see the range. Here's what most people don't realize. The person who turns $10,000 into $100,000 isn't the person with the highest IQ. It's the person with the most boring consistency. They don't check the news. They don't check the markets every hour. They just plant the seed and they stop digging it up to see if it's growing. The mistake is fiddling with it. Maybe I should move it to this new platform, or maybe I should buy this one coin I heard about online. No, stop. The second you start fiddling with your foundation, you crack it. You need to be a machine. You need to be a robot. You need to understand that $10,000 is the minimum price of admission to the wealth game, but it doesn't give you a seat at the table yet. It just gets you through the front door. So how do you fix it? How do you avoid the $10,000 mistake? First, you automate the next level. Before you even hit $10,000, you should have a plan for what happens to the next dollar. It should go straight into an investment account before you even see it. If you have to make a decision to invest, you will eventually make the wrong decision. You'll have a bad day or a big bill and you'll skip a month. Don't give yourself the choice. Second, you have to reevaluate your safety. Real safety isn't cash in a bank. Real safety is a portfolio of assets that produces value. Third, you have to stay humble. Don't change your lifestyle. Don't change your habits. The $10,000 is there so you can sleep, not so you can show off. I'm telling you this because I've seen so many people hit 10 grand and then vanish into a life of average. They get the comfortable trap, and 20 years later, they're still working the same job, complaining about the same bills, with the same $10,000 in the bank, which now only buys half the groceries it used to. Don't let that be you. Respect the math. Respect the clock. Most importantly, respect the version of yourself that worked so hard to save that first 10,000. Don't betray that person by becoming lazy now. Plant your seed. Keep rowing. Don't stop at the 5-mile mark. I want you to win, but you have to stay smart by being simple. Break the cycle. I'm Ian. Don't be broke. See ya.